In the quiet spaces between two hearts, there is a rhythm older than time itself. We often mistake an avoidance distance as rejection, when in truth, it is simply another movement in the vast symphony of becoming. Life has a way of guiding us through silence, through pauses, through the soft tension of the unknown, inviting us to witness the divine architecture shaping every connection we touch. When an avoidant chooses you, it is not a sudden awakening but a slow remembering, a sacred alignment of paths that were always meant to intersect. Their love is not loud, it is a revelation, an unfolding shaped by the invisible threads that pull every soul toward the lessons they are ready to hold. And as you stand in the presence of that choice, you begin to sense the extraordinary truth that nothing in your journey has ever been random, and every step has been leading you back to the center of a story written long before you arrived. There's something almost mystical about the way love arrives in our lives, not as a lightning strike, not as a dramatic declaration, but as a quiet season that begins with a shift in the air. And when we talk about avoidance, we have to understand that their love doesn't erupt the way we often imagine love should. It doesn't burst in through the door demanding to be seen. Their love is a timing, a sacred unfolding that begins long before you ever notice it taking shape. You see, for many people, love is an emotion, but for avoidance, love becomes a decision, one that rises out of deep internal movement. They don't fall in love, they enter it, slowly, cautiously, with intention, as if they're stepping into a new chapter of their own becoming. And if you've ever been close to someone who moves like this, you know that their timing can feel confusing. It can feel like hesitation, indifference, or even rejection. But in the grand design of life, timing is not an obstacle. It's part of the architecture. Think about the seasons. You don't rush winter into spring. You don't force a flower to bloom before its roots are ready. Nature teaches us patience through its rhythm, and avoidant love follows that same cosmic law. There is a preparation happening beneath the surface, layers of fear softening, old narratives dissolving, a new internal space being cleared for connection to live, and most of this happens in silence beyond what the eye can see. Avoidants don't choose love lightly, because choosing love means choosing vulnerability, choosing honesty, choosing to be witnessed in ways they've spent years learning to hide from. To an avoidant, love isn't just beautiful, it's disruptive. It challenges the identity they've built in the quiet corners of independence, and that's why their timing matters so much. They're not resisting you, they're reconciling with themselves. But here's the beautiful part: when an avoidant finally reaches that internal moment, when the fear stops being louder than the possibility, you're not witnessing a small decision, you're witnessing a spiritual milestone. A turning, a sacred opening, because for them, choosing someone is choosing a new way of existing in the world. It is an act of courage, a declaration that connection is worth the risk of being seen. And this doesn't happen because you convinced them, or pleaded with them, or proved yourself worthy. It happens because your presence aligned with their readiness. Life orchestrated a timing where your spirit met theirs in a place where growth was possible. That's why this isn't about trying harder. It's about recognizing that love unfolds when two stories are ready to merge, not when one person demands it. There's a humility that comes with understanding this. A softening, you begin to realize that their hesitation wasn't an obstacle. It was preparation. Their distance wasn't punishment. It was space for transformation. And the moment they choose you isn't random. It's the culmination of hundreds of unseen internal shifts, each one guiding them closer to a truth they were afraid to name, because love, for them, is not an accident, it's not luck, it's not impulse. It is a conscious arrival at a place where they finally feel safe enough to step into connection with both feet on the ground. And when they do, the connection becomes stronger, not because it's perfect, but because it's chosen with clarity. So when an avoidant chooses you, don't see it as a beginning born from nothing. See it as the moment the season turns, the moment the universe whispers now. And the truth is simple. Love that arrives in its own time becomes love that knows how to stay. There's a strange thing that happens when we're faced with silence from someone we care about. Our minds rush in to fill the gaps. We start writing stories, imagining what the other person is thinking, assuming the silence means something is wrong, or worse, that we're not wanted. But what if the silence isn't a verdict? What if it's simply part of the rhythm? When we talk about avoidance, we have to learn to hear silence differently. Their quiet isn't the quiet of disinterest. It's the quiet of processing, of protecting, of trying to make sense of emotions that feel bigger than what they've been taught to hold. Silence for them isn't an ending, it's a movement, a shift in the symphony of connection that doesn't always use words to express itself. Think about music for a moment. The most breathtaking compositions are not made of sound alone. They're carved just as powerfully from the spaces in between the pauses, the rests, the intentional stillness that gives the notes their meaning. Without silence, music collapses into noise. Without pauses, there's no depth, no anticipation, no emotion. Avoidants live life with those pauses built in. Their distance is part of how they regulate the world around them. When things feel intense, emotionally charged, vulnerable, or unpredictable, they step back, not because they're running from you, but because the silence helps them hear themselves. And in that silence, something sacred is happening. Their soul is recalibrating, their fears are reorganizing, their capacity for connection is expanding one quiet breath at a time. But we miss this because we've been conditioned to chase constant reassurance. We want clarity, we want consistency, we want a steady stream of communication to confirm that we matter, and there's nothing wrong with that desire, it's human. But the avoidant lives in a different interior landscape, where silence is the tool that helps them survive emotional overload. When you begin to understand this, you stop taking the pauses personally. You stop interpreting their withdrawal as rejection and start seeing it as part of their rhythm, part of the language of someone who has learned to navigate life from the edges instead of the center. That shift in perspective is transformative. Instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" you begin to ask, "What is being worked out in this space?" Instead of assuming abandonment, you start noticing the subtle ways they return, the small gestures that reveal they're still connected, still present, still choosing, even if their way of choosing doesn't look like yours. Silence becomes less of a threat and more of an opening, a place where both people can breathe, a place where the deeper layers of connection have time to settle, and here's the profound truth: in those quiet spaces, life is shaping both of you. The silence teaches patience, self-trust, and a deeper kind of listening. It reveals old wounds that still need tending. It shows you which parts of your story still believe love disappears when words go missing. Because the journey with an avoidant isn't just about understanding them, it's about remembering yourself. It's about using the silence not as a void to fear, but as a mirror that reflects your own growth, your own patterns, your own capacity to hold space without losing your center. And when you can meet their silence with steadiness, not panic, something shifts in them too. They feel safety in your calm. They feel invitation instead of pressure. They feel possibility instead of threat. That's when the distance begins to shorten. That's when the pauses become less about fear and more about presence. That's when the rhythm between you becomes something coordinated, something intentional, something real. Because silence is not the absence of love. Often, it's the soil where love learns how to breathe. And here's the line to hold on to. When you stop fearing the silence, you start hearing the truth. There's a quiet war happening inside the avoidant heart. One most people never see, and honestly, one the avoidant rarely talks about. From the outside, it can look like detachment. It can look like emotional distance, like they don't care as deeply as you do. But on the inside, something very different is happening. There's a push and a pull, this deep desire for connection, paired with an equally deep fear of losing themselves within it. It's not that they don't want love. In fact, many avoidants crave it with an intensity that surprises even them. But love, to someone who's built their world around self-preservation, can feel like walking into a forest without a map. Every step forward is shadowed by the fear of getting lost, losing identity, losing control, losing safety. Most avoidants grew up learning that closeness requires vigilance, that vulnerability is dangerous, that emotions open the door to disappointment or overwhelm. And so they build a kind of armor, independence that looks strong on the surface but is often born from necessity, not confidence. That armor becomes part of their identity. It helps them feel steady. It helps them feel capable. But it also becomes the very thing that keeps them wrestling within themselves. Imagine navigating life with two voices inside you. One says, reach out, you want this, you're drawn to this person. And the other says, be careful. If you get too close, you'll lose the part of you that's kept you safe. That inner battle isn't a sign of emotional immaturity. It's a sign of emotional history. When you understand that, compassion begins to replace frustration. This is why avoidants sometimes pull back right after a beautiful moment, why they sometimes retreat after opening up. They're not rejecting connection. They're trying to negotiate with their own fear. They're trying to make room for love without abandoning the parts of themselves that once kept them alive. And here's what's fascinating. This struggle isn't unique to avoidance. It's just more obvious within them. Every human being carries some version of this internal conflict. The fear of losing autonomy, the fear of being hurt, the fear of needing someone more than they need you. The avoidant simply feels this tension more intensely and responds to it more visibly. Once you see that, you stop taking their distance as a personal flaw or a lack of affection. You start seeing it as courage in progress, because every avoidant who edges closer, even if it's slow, even if it's shaky, is doing something incredibly brave. They're rewriting their internal script. They're choosing to step into uncertainty rather than stay confined in predictability. And this internal battle is a part of the grander story between two people. Their pullback invites your clarity, their hesitation invites your patience, their fear invites your grounding. In that dance, both people grow. Both people confront the places where they've held themselves back. Both people evolve into fuller versions of who they're capable of becoming, because love isn't just about connection. It's about expansion. It stretches us. It exposes the stories we've outgrown. It brings old wounds to the surface so new healing can begin. And with avoidance, that expansion just happens to be more visible, more delicate, more profound. So when you witness their inner battle, try seeing it through a wider lens. See the soul that's trying to reconcile two truths, the longing for closeness and the instinct for protection. See the bravery in every step forward, even when it's followed by a step back. See the humanity in the struggle, because this isn't a story about fear winning. It's a story about becoming, slowly, quietly, powerfully. And here's the truth that ties it all together. When a heart learns to battle its fear, it becomes strong enough to love. There comes a moment in every connection, especially with an avoidant, when love shifts from something felt to something chosen, and that choice, that's where the real beauty lies, because avoidants don't step into love casually. They don't drift into it the way some people do, swept up in emotion and momentum. When they choose you, it's deliberate, it's conscious, it's a moment of full-bodied vulnerability from someone who doesn't hand out vulnerability easily. You have to understand what that decision costs them internally. For someone who's spent most of their life relying on independence for safety, choosing another person isn't just choosing love, it's choosing exposure. It's choosing to let someone close enough to see the unpolished, unfiltered parts of them, the parts they've spent years protecting. That's why their yes often takes time, it has weight, it has depth. It's not impulsive, it's not reactive, it's a commitment shaped by introspection, not emotion alone. When an avoidant chooses you, it's not because you pushed or convinced them, it's not because you proved your worth or performed your way into their heart. It's because something inside them softened, something shifted, aligned, opened. They reached a point where the fear of being vulnerable became smaller than the desire to let someone in. And that shift happens quietly, almost imperceptibly over time. It's an internal thawing, a gradual surrender, and surrender is the right word, not defeat, but surrender in the deepest spiritual sense, the kind that requires trust, the kind that requires courage, the kind that says, I am stepping toward you even though I cannot predict what happens next. This is why their choosing feels different than what you may have experienced with others. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not wrapped in poetic declarations or cinematic gestures. It's subtle, almost sacred, a willingness to show up, to stay present, to let their guard down one layer at a time, and you can usually feel the shift. You notice the small things first, an unexpected openness, a softened tone, an emotional honesty that wasn't there before. They begin to share not because they're pressured, but because something inside them trusts the space you've created. They begin leaning toward connection instead of bracing against it. Those moments, those tiny unannounced openings, are the signs of a choice that's forming long before they finally say it out loud. The remarkable thing is that their choice isn't just about you, it's about who they want to become. Choosing you is also choosing a new version of themselves, a version that isn't ruled by old fears or past wounds. And that's why the decision is so powerful. It's transformational. It's identity, level change. They're stepping into love not just with you, but with life itself, with possibility, with growth, with their own healing, and because of that, the commitment they make carries a depth that's rare. When they choose fully. They're not halfway in, halfway out. They're not performing safety while hiding behind walls. Their choice is anchored in real intention. It's grounded in the soul, not just the heart. This is where the dance between two people becomes something extraordinary. When avoidants choose from that place of conscious vulnerability, they bring a steadiness and clarity that elevates the entire relationship. Their love becomes a rooted love, not impulsive, not reactive, but chosen every day with awareness. And the truth is, that kind of love, chosen love, is the most durable there is, because it isn't built on emotional highs. It's built on internal alignment. It's built on readiness. It's built on the courage to step into connection even when fear still whispers in the background. So when an avoidant chooses you, recognize the magnitude of what's happening. See the bravery, see the growth, see the beauty in a heart that decided you were worth the risk of being seen. And hold this truth close, a love that is chosen is a love that can truly last. There's a moment, usually after the confusion, after the push and pull, after the questions you've asked yourself 100 times, when you start to realize something deeper is happening, something bigger than just people trying to figure each other out. You begin to sense that this connection, especially with an avoidant, isn't random. It's not accidental. It's part of a larger design, a pattern you didn't notice before because you were too close to the details. When you step back and look at it from a wider lens, you start seeing how every interaction, every pause, every step forward, and every step back has been shaping you both. It's almost as if the relationship is a mirror the universe holds up, not to show you what's wrong, but to show you what's possible, to show you who you're becoming. The avoidants struggle, their hesitation, their silence. It all reveals something about the architecture of connection itself, because love isn't just two hearts linking up. Love is two stories, two histories, two spiritual blueprints weaving their way into a shared narrative. And this narrative is never linear. It bends, it curves, it challenges, it slows down. It invites you to see the connection not as a simple exchange of emotions, but as part of a cosmic choreography where both of you are learning how to move together. In that way, the avoidant becomes more than just a partner. You become each other's teacher. Their fear invites your compassion. Your steadiness awakens their trust. Their pauses force you to look at the parts of yourself that still panic in the presence of uncertainty. Their distance pushes you into your own growth, your own grounding, your own spiritual maturity, and your presence, your patience, your willingness to hold space. It starts to chip away at the walls they once believed were permanent. This is why the relationship feels bigger than the moment, because it is. It's not a mistake that your paths crossed. It's not coincidence that your strengths speak to their wounds and their wounds speak to your own healing. Life has a way of pairing people not just for companionship, but for evolution. And sometimes the greatest evolution comes from the people who challenge your rhythm, not the ones who immediately match it. When an avoidant begins to feel safe with you, what they're really experiencing is the alignment of something deeper, a resonance that goes beyond personality or preference. It feels like recognition. Like their soul is saying, I know this space. I can breathe here. You didn't manufacture that. You didn't force it. You simply became part of the environment that allowed something dormant within them to rise. And just as importantly, they become part of your environment too. They reflect back your unmet needs, your longing for reassurance, your fear of loss, your desire for consistency. They show you the places where you still seek certainty before allowing yourself to relax. They show you where you're still trying to earn love instead of receiving it freely. Their way of loving invites you to refine your own. That's the interconnectedness. That's the divine design. That's the contract you didn't even know you were entering when you met them. And once you start seeing the connection this way, you stop asking, why is this so hard? And you start asking, what is this trying to teach me? You stop viewing their protectiveness as a personal slight and start seeing it as part of a story that is reshaping both of you from the inside out. Because love isn't just a connection, it's a catalyst. It's a spiritual force that transforms both people when they allow it to. And the deeper truth becomes undeniable. The right connection doesn't just change your relationship, it changes your evolution. There comes a point when you begin to understand that love, real love, isn't just about finding someone who fits neatly into your world. It's about discovering someone who invites you into a journey of becoming. And when you're connected to an avoidant, this truth becomes even more apparent because their love story intertwines with yours in a way that pushes both of you toward growth neither of you saw coming. Avoidants don't just enter relationships, they evolve through them, and whether you realize it or not, when they choose you, you're stepping into a shared transformation. The connection becomes less about how do we fix this, and more about who are we becoming together. That shift is everything. It takes the relationship out of the realm of fear, out of the realm of analysis, and into something much deeper. Something like a journey of two souls learning to rise in harmony. The truth is, both of you bring something essential to the table. The avoidant brings a lifetime of self-reliance, a deep understanding of independence, a strong connection to their inner world. You bring openness, presence, emotional availability. Together, you begin to create a dynamic that challenges old patterns and reveals new possibilities. Their world expands because of your warmth. Your world strengthens because of their steadiness. And as the relationship unfolds, you start noticing that you're not just learning about them, you're learning about yourself. You begin to see the parts of you that rush, the parts that fear being left behind, the parts that want reassurance before breathing fully into connection. Those parts surface not to torment you, but to evolve you. To teach you how to stand steady even when someone else moves more slowly. To teach you how to hold love without clinging to it. At the same time, the avoidant is going through their own awakening. They're realizing that intimacy isn't a threat, it's a mirror. It doesn't swallow them, it expands them. They begin to notice that closeness doesn't suffocate when it's built on trust. They discover that letting you in doesn't mean losing themselves. Instead, they learn that connection can actually strengthen identity when it's rooted in authenticity. This mutual unfolding is the real magic. It's what turns the relationship into a shared evolution rather than a battle of needs, because both of you are in motion, both of you are shedding old layers, both of you are stepping into new versions of yourselves, shaped not by force, but by understanding. And this is where the journey becomes something cosmic. You start to see how every moment between you, every pause, every breakthrough, every misunderstanding and reconciliation is part of a blueprint that is sculpting both of you. It's not just love, it's alignment. It's not just partnership, it's co-creation. You're not just learning how to be with each other. You're learning how to grow with each other. That's what makes the relationship durable, not perfection. Not certainty, but a shared willingness to evolve. When an avoidant loves you, they're not offering a static connection. They're offering a dynamic one shaped by two people who are willing to meet life with openness, with courage, with curiosity. And in that willingness, something extraordinary happens. You stop trying to control the journey and you start trusting it. You begin to feel that your stories were always meant to intersect, that both of you arrived in each other's lives not to replicate old wounds but to heal them, not to repeat old patterns but to outgrow them, not to fit the past but to build the future, because in the end the relationship becomes more than a connection. It becomes a path, a shared path, a sacred path. One where both hearts rise together, step by step, moment by moment, into the people they were always capable of becoming. And if there's one truth that captures this journey, it's this: love expands the moment both souls choose to grow.